Good afternoon to all. Today our topic is basic concepts of Python. So we learn Python from by basics. Firstly, we know what is Python. Python is a clear and powerful object-oriented programming language. It is comparable to the Perl and Ruby or Java. Python is a programming language that combines features of C and Java. इसमें क्या हुआ है हमारे combines of C and Java features. That is the link of for download for reading the document of the Python. About the history of Python, Python was developed by Guido van Rossum in 1990 at the mathematics session in the Netherlands, a successor of the called ABC. Name Python picked from TV show Monty Python's Flying Circus. That is the link of the license learning and the first version of Python are introduced in 1991. Second version is 1.0 that is introduced in 1994. Third version is 2.0 that is introduced in 2000. Fourth version is 3.0 that is introduced in 2008. Fifth version is 3.1 that is introduced in 2009. Next version is 3.2 that is introduced in 2011. Next version is 3.3 that is introduced in September 2012. Next version is 3.4 that is introduced in March 2014. Next version is 3.5 that is introduced in September 2015. Next version is 3.6 that is introduced in 2016. Next version is 3.7 that is introduced in June 2018. And that is the link to know about the versions of Pythons. Python's 3 plus cannot be used Windows XP or earlier. About the features of Python, it is easy to learn. Second feature is high level language. Next feature is interpreted language. Fourth feature is platform independent. Next feature is procedure and object oriented. Next feature is Hug library. Next is scalable. Applications of Python. First applications of Python is web application. In web application, we can use these types of IDE, Django, Pymid, Flask, Bottle. Next is desktop GUI. In this, we can use Thinker, console-based applications. Next is games and 3D applications. Next is mobile applications. Next is scientific and numeric applications. Next is data science applications. Next is machine learning application that is developed with the help of IDEs, skit-learning and the TensorFlow. Next is data analysis. Next is Matplotlib and the Seaborn. Last is business applications. These are the applications of Python. Next is about bytecode. Bytecode represent the fix of instruction that is created by Python developers, representing all types of operators like arithmetic operators, operations and comparison operation, and memory related operations. The size of each bytecode instruction is 1 byte or 8 bits. We can find bytecode instruction in .pyc file. Python compiler. A Python compiler converts the program source code into byte code. The type of Python compilers, first is CPython, second is JPython. The CPython is used for C languages and the JPython used in Java. Next is PyPython, RubyPython, AryanPython, Scateless Python, Python XPy, Anaconda Python. So these are the Python compilers that is available in the market. Write source code program. How we write the source code program? Firstly, a source code program that is uh, uh, that is saved by .py. Then compile the program. Compiling using the Python compiler. Compiler convert the Python program into bytecode. Bytecode. Then .pyc file is created. And computer and machine cannot be understand bytecode. So we convert into a machine in the machine language with the help of PVM. With the help of PVM. PVM uses an interpreter which understands the bytecode and convert into a machine code. Then machine code instructions are then executed by the processor and results are displayed. So these are the process for executing the Python program. Next is PVM. PVM stands for Python Virtual Machine. Python Virtual Machine is a program which provides programming environment, which provides programming environment to programming environment. Full stop. The role of PVM is convert the bytecode instruction into a machine code. So the computer can execute those machine code instruction and display the output. The process of Python virtual machine. Firstly, source code. Then compiling the Python compiler is compile the source code. That this source code convert into a bytecode. Bytecode that is extension is .pyc. Then PVM. In a PVM is the interpreter. The interpreter convert the bytecode into a machine code and sends the machine code to the processor for execution. Then at last, output is gained. Next is executing Python program. Python program we can execute using command line window. Next tool is IDLE. Next is Notepad and Notepad++, PyCharm, Visual Studio. So these are the IDE that is we can use for the Python programs. So next is identifiers. In identifier, an identifier is a name having a few letters, comma numbers, and special characters. It should always start with a non-numeric character. It is used to identify a variable, comma function, comma symbolic constant, and class etc. For example, text2, pi, sigma, meta-add, full name. So these are the examples for the identifier. Python is case sensitive programming language. So D is not equal to a capital D. Same as T is not equal to a capital T. Rahul is not equal to a Rahul. Because in a first Rahul name, the R is small and second Rahul name is R is capital. Next is keywords. So Python uses the following keywords which are not available to users to use them the identifiers. So these are the keywords or reserved words that is used in the Python program: false, none, true, and, as, asserts, break, class, continue, def, del, elif, else. These are the keywords and also called that is reserved words. So next slide is constant. And a constant is an identifier whose values cannot be changed throughout the execution of a program, whereas the variable value keep on changing. There are no constants in Python the way they can exist in C and Java. In Python, it is not possible to define constant whose value cannot be changed. In Python, constants are usually defined on a module level and written in a all capital letters with underscore separating words, but remember its values can be changed. For example, pi, total, min value. So these are the examples of constant. Next topic is variable. Variable in C, Java or some other programming languages, a variable is an identifier or a name connected to memory locations. For example, a equal to 10, a, and the 12114 is the address of a, and 10 is the value. Then second variable is b equal to 10. Then this is the address of b, and this is the value of 10. And another variable is c equal to 20. And this address is 12117, and this values is 20. But that is the case of in C language and Java. But in Python, a program is considered as a tag that is tied to some value. Python considered value as objects. For example, a equal to 10, then b equal to 10. Both values are equal, a and b. Then in case in a Python, the Python is indicate the a variable values 10 because a and b variable values are same. So that is the benefit in a Python language. Rules: every variable name should start with alphabet or underscore. Second rule is no space are allowed in variable declaration. Third is except underscore, no other special character are allowed in middle of the variable declaration. And next is a variable is written with a combination of letters, comma numbers, comma special characters. No reserved words is in use of rules. For example, what type variable we can use, we can not use. So these are the examples we can use in a variables. So next topic is data type. Data type in Python. Data type represents the type of data stored into a variable or memory. Type of data type: First type is data type is built-in data type. Second is user-defined data type. In built-in data type, these data types are provided by the Python language. Following are the built-in data type. First is none type. Second is numeric types. Third is sequences. Fourth is sets. Fifth is mappings. So these are the built-in data type in the Python. And next is user-defined data types. User-defined data types are array, class, or module. In none data type, if we know about none data type, none data type represent an object that does not contain any value. Numeric data type, following are the numeric data type: int, float, complex. These are the numeric data type. In int, the int data type represent an integer value, an integer number without any decimal point or fraction part. In Python, it is possible to store very large integer number as there are no limit of size on the int data type. For example, 20, 10, minus 10, 50. These are the examples for numeric data type in integer type. Next is float data type. The float data type represent the floating point numbers. A floating point numbers is a number that contain a decimal point. For example, these are the examples for float variables, 25.56. So these are the examples for the floating values, the floating type of data. Next is complex. A complex number is a number that is written in a form of a plus and a plus b, where a equal to is a real part of a number, b is imaginary part of a number. So these are the examples of complex number: -5 plus 7j, comma 0.8 plus 2.j. These are the examples of complex data type. Next is bool type. The bool data type represents Boolean value, true or false. Python internally represents true as 1 and false as 0. For example, true and false. We can achieve these values using in a true and false values, 0 and 1. In a sequence type, the following are the sequence type: string, list, tuples, range. So these are the types of the sequence type. In a string represent group of characters. Strings are enclosed in double quotes on single quotes. For example, these are the examples of string. Next is list. A list represent a group of elements. A list can store different type of elements which can modified. A list are dynamic, which means size is not fixed. Lists are represented using the square brackets. These are the example of lists in which we can store different type of data like integer, float, and string. So this is the combination of different type of data types. So next is tuple. A tuple contain a group of elements which can be different data type. It is similar to a list, but tuples can read only, which means we cannot modify its element. In a tuples, we cannot modify the elements. So these are the difference between list and tuples. So these are the memory data. In a zero index, data is 10. In one index, data is 20. In two index, data is -50. In three index, data is 21.3. and next index is this. Next is range. Range represents a sequence of numbers. A sequence of numbers. The numbers is range are not modifiable. These are the example of range. A range is 5. Then is if range is these are the example of range in a Python. Next is set Python. A set is a unordered collection of elements, much like a set of mathematics. The order of elements is not measured in the sets. That means it means the elements may not appear in the same order as they are entered into a set. A set does not accept duplicate elements. Sets are unordered, so we can not access its elements using index. For example, where is a variable is data. It is a data in 10, 20, 30. Next is mapping type. A map represents a group of elements in a form of key pairs. For example, so these are the examples of map type in a Python. Next is character. There is no concept of character data type in a Python to represent individual character. So next is operators. Operators in Python. So this is the last topic in a Python. An operator is a symbol that performs an operation. So these types of operators are available in the Python. First is arithmetic operator. Next is relational operator, logical operators, assignment operators, bitwise operators, and membership operators. So these are the operators that is available in the Python. So